There's this wave of anxiety building around AI, and you can feel it pretty much everywhere. Reports like the Citrini 2028 global intelligence crisis are out there, and they're painting this picture of just massive disruption. Job losses, whole industries collapsing. And look, it's a compelling story, and frankly, it's a pretty scary one. But is it the only story? Let's take a step back from the headlines and see what history actually has to teach us. And here's the thing about those reports. They're scenarios. They're well thought out, they're provocative, and they are absolutely worth reading. But they are not forecasts. And confusing a possible scenario with an inevitable forecast, that's a really dangerous trap. And it's one that has completely derailed strategic thinking for decades. So if you're getting this little feeling of déjà vu, you should be. This pattern of fear, followed by a genuinely painful transition, and then eventually adaptation, it's not new at all. In fact, if we just look back over the last couple of decades, we've seen this exact same movie play out 5 times. So let's actually use that history as our guide, right? By looking back at these past disruptions, we can start to see this really consistent pattern. And it tells us a whole lot about what's really going on with AI right now, way beyond all the scary headlines. That's right, 5. 5 different times when a new technology showed up and was supposed to basically break everything. But every single time, the reality turned out to be way more complex and, honestly, way more interesting than just simple destruction. Okay, let's just walk through this. Remember Y2K? The fear was a total global infrastructure collapse. What really happened? Well, that massive effort to fix it basically turbocharged India's entire IT outsourcing sector. Then came the cloud. The fear? All the enterprise IT jobs were going to vanish. Instead, it created totally new roles and just massively expanded IT spending. Then open source was supposed to be the death of commercial software. Nope, it just forced companies to get better, to innovate. And the pattern just kept going with mobile and big data. Every single time the fear of everything breaking apart eventually gave way to adaptation, new ways to make money, and brand new kinds of jobs. And this, right here, this lays out the pattern perfectly. Every single time we see these 4 stages play out. First, we overestimate the immediate damage. We always do. Then, we underestimate our own collective ability to adapt over the long run. Now, there is a genuinely painful transition period. That part is absolutely real. But then, on the other side of that pain, something new emerges. New roles, new industries, new capabilities. So, you see, disruption isn't the end of the story. It's the thing that forces us to change. So, with that historical lens on, let's turn back to AI. What are the leaders on the front lines, the people actually putting this stuff to work? What are they seeing? Well, they're not talking about a collapse. They're talking about a reset. Just listen to what Syed Atif Umar is saying. The change is 100% real. You don't need these huge teams for tasks that models can do now. But this isn't about elimination, it's about elevation. What's left over, and what becomes even more valuable, are the skills that are uniquely human. Good judgment, new ideas, and knowing how to ask the right questions in the first place. And check out how Nidhi Pratap Naini frames this. AI isn't just another app or another tool you add to the toolbox. It's becoming the actual foundation, the platform that work itself is built on. I mean, that is a fundamental, game-changing shift that goes way, way beyond simple automation. And Prasad Sivalanka connects this right back to that historical pattern we were talking about. See, surviving and thriving in this new world isn't a one-time thing. It's a cycle that you have to keep running. You sustain what works, you optimize it with new tools like AI, and then you use all that freed up capacity to innovate. That's how this actually happens in the real world. So this all leads us to this core concept, the productivity reset. It's not a collapse in demand for work. It's a fundamental change in the economics of work itself. AI is creating this kind of deflationary effect where you can produce way more value for the same cost. For the first time, you can actually grow your revenue without automatically having to grow your headcount at the same rate. This changes, well, everything. And we're already seeing this stuff happen right now. Pricing is starting to shift from being about how many hours you work to the outcome you actually deliver. Like we said, headcount is decoupling from revenue. And the companies that have that deep, real-world expertise, they're starting to pull away from the rest of the pack. I mean, just look at the big Indian IT firms. They're not just waiting for the sky to fall. They are aggressively scaling AI programs that are focused on real return on investment for their biggest clients. This is adaptation happening in real time. But here's where it gets really interesting. This whole productivity reset, it's revealing a new and kind of unexpected problem. As all the old technical constraints start to fall away, a much more human bottleneck is starting to appear. Just let that quote from Pankaj Rai sink in for a minute. For basically all of human history, our progress has been limited by our tools. And for the first time, that's not really the main problem anymore. The tech is here. The real limit now is our ability to imagine what to do with it.
Think about it this way. The old world was defined by scarcity, right? Not enough tools, not enough computing power. The new world is defined by abundance. AI is taking over the routine stuff, and that's freeing up this immense amount of human capacity. So the biggest challenge for every leader now is, what do you do with that? How do you fill that new space with higher order work like vision, creativity, and strategic imagination?
This entire shift from it being a technology problem to it being an imagination problem, it completely reframes that whole doomsday narrative. It really boils everything down to a single critical question that every company, every leader, and really every one of us has to face right now. Nivi Pratapnini asks the one question that just cuts through all the noise. Are we using this incredible new capability just to squeeze out more profit for a few people? Or are we using it to create broader prosperity for everyone? The answer to that question is what will define this entire era of technology. It's not about the tech, it's about our purpose. And so, that leaves us with one final challenge. Those doomsday reports are useful, not because they're going to come true, but because they force us to face this question head on. Is your organization building genuine, transformative AI capability, or are you just slapping a new AI-powered label on the same old services? History's pretty clear on this. The gap between those two approaches, that's where the real disruption is going to happen. And it's going to reward the ones who choose to adapt with a real purpose.